I'm just doing a quick recap of yesterday.
I think the sentence "doing slim." I'm doing slim today.
Yes, because being slim is a verb. It's very important not to nominalise things. So it's important to do things. So if you are doing slim, then you every single day you do slim or you do healthy or whatever your word phrase is. But actually the most important concept for all of this is pleasure versus pain.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was quite surprised at what the motivation was, because I always thought it was pleasure and actually it's real pain.
It's real pain. And so, and in fact, if you get the clamshell package, the first CD is all about pleasure and pain when you listen to it. And it might take you to an uncomfortable place, but it's really important. And you've got to switch. This is a painful behaviour and that gives me that. And this is a pleasurable behaviour and that gives me that. And then to the point where you're going, duh. So it's about using the next few days and weeks to really reinforce everything that you've done. Amanda, what have you been doing since?
I've been doing a lot of that, trying to stay in positivity.
Good.
That you talked about, and just making healthy choices.
The lines get blurred, don't they? Between, you know, the pleasure and pain thing. I've just kind of thought of this, because eating is really a pleasurable thing.
Absolutely,
but can
overeating.
A lot of pain.
Yes.
And there's other areas, which I won't go into, but there's other areas that are supposed to be pleasurable, but when associated with something really painful, then become not what everyone else experiences.
Exactly.
So I think for me, it's about recognising that that's what's happened, and then changing my mindset.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a real light bulb moment.
Good. So today is all about, whereas yesterday was how your brain works, today is how your body works. And so the first part of the day, most of the morning, is not so much about food, but actually about how you work, how your metabolism works, how your fat cells work, how much you should be eating, how much activity you should do, and basically your physiological responses to movement and food. And then the rest of the day is all about food. So what would be really helpful is, as I started with yesterday, for if you each to give me, and don't worry if you're repeating what someone else says is fine, for you each to give me one thing that you want out of today, so that I can make sure if it's not included already, then I factor it in. Okay? Only one rule, for want of a better expression, with this whole way of eating, and I'll show you ways to colour code things so that you can immediately in your mind categorise and things like that. But if there's a rule, it's this: if you don't like it, don't eat it just because it's slimming. And that's the single most important thing, is don't say, oh God, I ought to eat that because it's slimming. If you don't like it, you mustn't eat it, because what happens is then you're anchoring pain to a change that you want to make. Doing something painful is going to ultimately lead to self-sabotage, and it doesn't work. And anyway, diet food is crap. It's horrible. It's full of aspartame, which is poison. Also a great believer in knowledge is power. And that when you're really informed about something, because your unconscious is pretty smart and it wants the best for you, and that's always helpful to know that inside of you is a sense, a spirit, whatever you want to call it. Your unconscious wants the best for you, but you've got to educate your unconscious as to what is best. So it would never do anything that would intentionally harm you. It will only allow you to overeat if at some point is connected some pleasure to that or some benefit to that, and once you disconnect that, then it stops you overeating. And at the same time, if you're really aware of what foods do and how they affect you and how they make you store more fat than other foods or whatever, then your unconscious goes, hang on a minute, and it will start to question some of your behaviours. Faster rate early on, but it will level out. And when it levels out, really anything between 1 and 2.5 pounds a week is normal. And the ideal is to make sure that of that 1 or 2 pounds a week that you lose, as much of it as possible is body fat. Because I could write you a diet right now and say, right, this is what you need to eat, and basically it would be all chicken. And you'd probably lose about £7 in a week. But you'd also become dehydrated, you'd become metabolically compromised in some of your activities and your cellular functions, and as soon as you start eating normally, 6 pound will go back on. So it's about understanding the effects that different foods have on your bodies in the long term, because it is the long term that you're interested in. Because, you know, hands up who does not want to go on a diet? Because guess what? Life is not a diet. It is not a talking about lean body, it's primarily your muscles plus all the other bits that actually require energy to function. That's one part of your weight. The other part of your weight is fat. So it's basically lean body and fat, and you've got a percentage. Now, you do need fat. It's not about trying to get your fat percentage down to nil, because you would be dead. So we're not interested in a fat-free diet, and we're certainly not interested in a fat-free body. But for everybody that's overweight, fat is the tissue that you want to reduce the most. And some diets, where you lose weight on the scales, you actually lose more lean body than you do fat. So you end up skinny fat, if that makes sense, or flabby skinny, or whatever, you know. And when I used to have the health clubs, the amount of people that came in, especially when the high protein diet was really popular, now we'll talk about that in more detail later, but the amount of people that would come in and say, oh, I've lost 2 stone, I just need to firm up now. And I think it's nothing to firm up, you've burned all your muscle because of the way that you've done it. So you've now got fat. So we've actually got to go back to basics. You've got to put on a little bit of weight, i.e. muscle, so that you can burn the fat that's left, because you've got nothing left to burn the fat with. Because the only place in your body that you can burn fat is in your muscles. So if you lose your muscle, you can't burn the fat. So you've got to get your muscle back to be able to burn the fat. So body composition is really important, and this is why I generally say scales are okay as a guide, but you've got to get a tape measure and you've got to go with your clothes. And